Like many of you, I have a practically insurmountable Steam backlog filled with games I may never even play. I've been making an effort to play games that I haven't tried yet, as well as go back and replay games that I loved in the past. Control is one of those games that I never got around to playing when it was new, so I decided to give it a shot, and, well, it was interesting. The narrative was intriguing. The entire story can basically be summed up as
Where is Dylan?
As Jess, the main character, searches for her brother who was kidnapped after a series of paranormal events in their youth. For some reason, Jesse becomes the boss 2 seconds after walking in the door and has to navigate through a lockdown bureau and fight against the Hiss, a supernatural entity infecting most of the bureau, causing them to float and recite ominous incantations or turn into the enemies and attack you. The entire game also revolves around Dr. Darling and the videos of him left behind. The only way I think I can describe Dr. Darling is the most heterosexual man to ever live. Yeah. Super hetero. Darling is actually genuinely the most interesting of the characters, with a broad range of emotions, creating tension when needed, but also being an extremely lighthearted character. The game is a bit of a mindfuck. It takes the concept of trauma and nightmares and brings them to life. Much of the plot happens in the beginning of the game, and then story progression grinds to a halt. The game definitely couldn't keep up such a rapid pace with so many things happening, but there is a large, like 6-hour chunk in the middle of the game where just nothing happens. The narrative also sadly unfolds during the midst of many mundane fetch quests that can get tiresome. Fortunately, the game is saved because at the end you get to control Jesse in the only job suitable for a woman, a glorified office secretary. 10 out of 10, extremely based. Jesse, the character you play as, has zero personality. Her personality is about as anemic as your average communist Twitch streamer. The alerts that would come up, basically side missions where you kill a few enemies in a timed session, added nothing to the game. They would even come up during story missions and serve as a time waste that wouldn't even give you meaningful mods, a feature that probably would have been better off left scrapped. Almost everyone left in charge after the Hiss took over is a woman because, woo, girl power. The blonde chick even has the lesbian haircut to match. The character models do look great, however, they are a little slack-jawed and mouth-breathe more than Eli Manning. There's also some awkward pauses in dialogue at times, which, with most of the game being narrated by Jesse, it's really a small complaint. The overall art style and direction is very good and definitely unique, from the sheen of the walls and the floor to the ominous red glow of the enemies to the enemies exploding into a colorful cloud of smoke. This game is an example of reusing assets done right. The setting of the shifting bureau automatically explains the visual consistency. It makes perfect sense that a large government building would have a lot of similarities throughout. The game keeps a clean aesthetic yet doesn't feel empty. The environment stays clean and pristine until you change that in combat. The combat is very simple. Shoot people and hurl furniture at them. Fighting a tough enemy, third person peek them while hugging a corner and keep hurling things at them until they die. Not cheesy at all. No furniture to throw? No problem. Just rip a hunk out of the wall and throw it at them too. The game is not hard. I fell to my death as many times as I died to the enemies, and both of those were problems of mental retardation by me and not the game being difficult. The game isn't really about the gunplay. The gun is a fairly generic recharge weapon that for some reason has bloom in a single player game. I played on mouse and key and my sensitivity was too high, but I never bothered changing it, so at least made things slightly more interesting. The enemies have a lot of variety. There's the grunts with shields, fat grunts
with real tips and shit.
Okay, that's a joke, but the enemy variety is fine. But why is the most dangerous enemy the flying monkey? I get shot by anything and it barely affects me, but the flying monkey can basically one-tap you. Also, there's a spinning ball of death that vaporizes everything in its path. You can't kill them, but you run away and you're fine. The game does feel good and generally very smooth when you're not suffering from frame drops. Holy shit, there's an assload of mods and upgrades. It's an in-depth system, but is rendered irrelevant because you just need to keep throwing shit at the enemy.
Gun bad. Throwing shit good.
It's really that simple. There is no strategy. Just keep throwing shit until all of the enemies are dead. You're just shooting spares and bowling. I got to the point where I ignored the mods entirely because they would be like, use 2% less ammo and 360 YY no scoping. The upgrades I used but noticed no difference outside of health increases and increasing the throwable damage.
Throwing shit good.
It's clear that the devs wanted to include some roleplay elements into the game, but they failed there miserably. The game's autosave system is interesting, not good interesting. The closest comparison I've heard is the game saves like Dark Souls, but you only lose 10% of your currency and respawn at the last control point. It's not awful, but it's annoying dying and being set back 10 minutes and you just have to run all the way back to where you were towards the end of the mission. It might not feel as annoying if you weren't just doing a fetch quest with set spawn waves of enemies. I just want to grab the shit and get back so I can progress the story. The AI is special.
And I mean really special.
They basically just stand there daring for you to kill them while they inaccurately shoot at you. Despite not taxing my PC at all, the game had various issues. Most of the time it ran fine, but there would often be random frame drops because of how many moving parts the game has. This would often stop my recording too, causing me to pause and restart the recording, which is just even more frustrating when you're trying to make a video. I also had the game black screen. I could still get the interact prompts and everything had sound, but the entire screen was black otherwise, forcing me to have to restart the game entirely. The minimap sometimes wouldn't highlight the next objective, and I would have to fumble around trying to find out where I had to go. Fortunately, the answer is generally where you haven't been so far and where the enemies keep attacking you from, so it's not really that big of a deal. Again, it was just more of an annoyance. Control is definitely driven by its narrative and art style. Much of the rest of the game is often forgettable or fairly generic, but the story is what keeps you invested in the game overall. Control is a game that most people should play, but as I have clearly laid out, it's far from flawless. It was, however, made by people who put a lot of passion into their work. I beat the main story myself, but I don't know if I'm ever going to play it again. Despite enjoying my time playing the game, I was glad when it ended. I was bored by the tedium of the missions and just wanted to see how the story ended. It definitely didn't leave me wanting more, but I was satisfied with the conclusion, and that's fine. Not every game is going to leave you satisfied with the fact that you played it. In fact, many times I have found myself wishing I had time back from playing a game that was just terrible, but in this case, I was happy with the game. I recently played Suicide Squad and I wish I hadn't, but Control, again, it just left me satisfied. It's not something that you're probably going to look back in 10 years and go, man, I loved that game, I need to replay it, but it's not a game that's going to make you regret playing it. As I said previously, I think it's a game that everyone probably should play. Well, that brings us to a close of this review of Control. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments down below. If you did like the video, please be sure to leave a like. Again, it helps the channel grow a ton. Subscribe, turn on post notifications, all of that good shit. But as always, guys, this has been your boy Drinker, and I am out of here. Peace.